And we'll give ourselves the opportunity over the next few moments to drop in and to arrive in your practice. So just noticing at first the practice of svadhyaya, of self-observation. And just checking in with what's here with you. Nature of your attention, where it's being drawn, any thoughts that you might feel arising, any emotions. Aware of sensations too. So noticing what you feel, where you feel it in your body. Noticing where your attention is drawn to the different sensations that you feel. Allowing yourself to welcome the sensations that you feel. Whether you would label them pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, you can be curious about all of this experience and really just notice what's here. And starting to turn your attention now to your breath. And at first, again, simply noticing. Noticing the length of the inhalation, the length of the exhalation, relative depth, relative ease. Noticing if one phase of your breath feels a little longer or easier than the other. And if you notice a difference, you can turn your attention to the phase of breath that feels a little shorter. So gradually inviting that shorter phase of breath to lengthen and match the longer. And then when it feels like time, you can recruit your Ujjayi Pranayama. Tongue resting lightly in front of your top two front teeth. Just a little lowering of your chin, a little lifting of your soft palate. You can start to create the sound of a whisper at the back of your throat and use this control that you have to really lengthen and deepen and intensify your breath. Let's continue to breathe with this long, slow inhalation, long, slow exhalation. You might even think now about letting the breath flow up and down the front of your spine. And as you inhale, fill from the bottom to the top. Completely fill your torso with breath. As you exhale, exhale from the top to the bottom and feel the grounding sensation that that provides. You can inhale from the bottom to the top, feeling that sensation of lifting and lengthening. And exhale from top to bottom, settling into what you feel beneath you, feeling that firm support in the pull of gravity. This is going to be kind of the theme of our practice today. This sense of rising up and of grounding down, the opposing forces of energy, and how that brings us into a balance physically and mentally in our practice. So we'll continue to breathe with our Ujjayi Pranayama. When you feel ready to move, you can slide off your sitting prop. Slide it out from underneath you, and we'll come to hands and knees. And from hands and knees, let's just take a few moments to stretch out our calves and ankles. So you can tuck your right toes, press out through your right heel, and then press out through your left heel. We'll alternate a few times. And eventually you can come back to right leg extended, reaching through your heel, lifting through your thigh. Now engage your core, lift your belly, maybe lift your left knee off the floor. So we're really pressing back into the right heel. And you can set your left shin down. We'll set the right shin down, switching sides, tuck your left toes, really press, and maybe you can float your right knee. You'll bring your right knee back down. So this time, we'll flex our feet, tuck our toes under, inner edges of your feet touching if you can. Just sit back on your heels, and we'll try to press inner ankles towards each other. Ooh, it's been a little while since I did this particular exercise, I can tell. We'll take some time for our plantar fascia to get the idea that they should lengthen. If this is a little intense, you can always stand up on your knees, or if it's not comfortable in your knees, you can always place a support on your heels and sit back on your support. And in this way, transfer your body weight into your feet without having to flex your knees so deeply. So we'll just kind of work with this for a few more breaths. Notice if you're flinching away from the intensity or if you're clenching your teeth, try to let all that go. And finally, we'll release this You can point your toes back, maybe give them a wiggle, and then we'll sit down on our heels and lean back. So maybe you're leaning into your hands, maybe you even bend your elbows a little bit. You can even lift your knees a little bit here as we stretch into our shins. Very nice. All right, rocking back forward. I have one more for you. This one is particularly juicy. And this time we'll cross our feet. So I'll turn around so you can see what I'm doing. We'll cross the top of the left foot into the arch of the right, and then sit back. Just like the other variation, if this is a little much in your knees, you can always place some support underneath your hips and transfer your body weight this way. If it's too much in your feet, you'll end up maybe leaning a little forward or even standing up on your knees. I know this one is pretty intense. We'll just give it another breath or two. We won't be here quite so long. We'll walk forward, change the cross. Top of right foot into the arch of the left, and once more sit back. So maybe you're here, maybe it's helpful to lean forward, take a little weight into your hands, maybe you're lifting your seat up a little bit to relieve the intensity. We'll try to hang out here for another couple of breaths. And you're going to rock forward, release your feet, circle your ankles, wiggle your toes. Maybe it feels good again to tuck your toes and reach out through your heel one at a time. Eventually we'll find our way to hands and knees, and let's do a little spinal wake up. So when you inhale, you can lift your sitting bones, draw your heart forward, lift your head. When you exhale, you'll hug your belly up and in and around, moving with cat and cow, and letting your breath allow this movement to occur. Really initiating the movement with the breath. And it can be really interesting as we come into the spinal movement to come back to our inhale from top to bottom, feeling the extension, our exhale from bottom to top, feeling the support. It can also be really interesting to start with this simple forward and backward flexion and then get a little curious and get a little exploratory. Maybe it feels good to move hips side to side or to roll your shoulders or to circle. Maybe there are other movements that your body would like to use to help you warm up. So we'll just spend a few moments now with some free-form movement, following your breath, following your intuition, feeling what feels good as you start to warm everything up. Nice. Eventually, we'll organize ourselves back to hands and knees. You can plant your hands, fingers spread, with your index fingers pointing towards the front of your mat, hands under or just a little forward of your shoulders, knees under your hips, feet hip distance apart. You'll flex your feet, tuck your toes, lift your knees, and press back, downward facing dog. You guys can fully use both hands. I can't put any weight in my right hand right now, but I'd love to see you guys with your weight equally distributed between your two hands. Bases of your index fingers pressing down, shoulders nice and broad. And again, once you find your downward facing dog, just like we did in our hands and knees, you have some space for some curiosity and some investigation and some exploration. But maybe it feels interesting to shift a little forward and back, or to find some spinal movement, or find some hip movement, turn your head side to side. There may be movements I haven't suggested that your body is craving and you'd like to make those. So this is your time to find your way into a down dog. Notice what down dog feels like to you. Notice what little adjustments you might like to make. I love what I'm seeing. Lots of creativity and exploration going on. Thank you. And eventually these movements can kind of get a little more subtle, a little bit more contained, a little bit more internal, until you're in the downward facing dog that is outwardly still, but inwardly vibrant and alive. Yeah, let's be here for 2 more breaths. And then somewhere at the end of your next exhalation, you can start to move your feet forward towards your hands. It might feel good, especially since we're working with our feet a bit today, to try rolling from heel to toe as you walk forward. So take several steps. Use your whole foot, rolling from heel to ball as you walk forward. And when you find your standing forward fold, your feet will be about the width of your hips. You can bend your knees, hinge at your hips, spill your pelvis forward, and we'll hang out in Uttanasana. Maybe little fingers even coming to the creases of your elbows, and then finding a little spinal movement here. Eventually, we'll let our hands hang down towards the floor, and I'll invite you to bend into your left knee a little more. Straighten your right knee a little more. You might feel your hips twist slightly. And then you can allow this twist to move up your spine. Reach your right hand up towards the ceiling. Maybe look up. Release the twist on this side. We'll reverse it. Right knee bends a little bit. Left leg straightens a little more. You might feel your hips start to twist. And you can let that twist proceed all the way up your spine, reaching the left hand for the ceiling. Finally, you'll exhale and release back to your forward fold. Let's stay in the forward fold. Look at your feet. Lift all 10 toes. Spread your toes out. Release your toes back to the mat. And do your best not to hang onto your mat like you're a bird gripping a wire. Let your toes be long. And finally, we'll soften our knees and stack pelvis and then vertebra upon vertebra and shoulders and head and neck. Arms can float up. Maybe your gaze rises. We'll exhale here and release our arms. Beautiful. So standing in your mountain pose, rooting down through your feet. Let's take right arm out to the side, palm up. Externally rotate. Maybe you can swing your hand out to the side a little bit, and then we'll press hand up towards the ceiling, maybe even elevate your shoulder blade into a side bend. Then draw it down and back. External rotation, press up, draw it down and back. We'll do one more, reaching up. One more, drawing that arm back in, and you can switch. Left arm reaches out to the side. It's an external rotation in your shoulder. Press your palm up towards the ceiling. You can let your shoulder blade lift. You can stretch out your left side and draw it back down. And reaching up and draw it back down. And you do one more like this. Reach up, draw it back down. Turning your palms forward. Let's inhale, reach up overhead. Both hands, they meet. You can look up, exhale, Uttanasana, standing forward fold. From here, we'll inhale and lift. Keep the back of your neck long as you lift into your half forward fold. And then plant your hands and step your feet back. You can lower all the way to your belly for this first round. And we'll take our hands just a little forward of our shoulders, elbows hug in, ground the tops of your feet, lift the fronts of your shoulders, lift the base of your skull, maybe even lift your arms. So we're activating the back body as we lift into Bhujangasana, hands free. You can exhale and lower. We'll inhale up to hands and knees. Sitting bones lifted. Exhale, press it back, downward facing dog. So in our downward facing dog, you can walk your right foot a little forward, a little to the midline. Drop your right heel as close to the mat as you can get it. And then see if maybe your left foot will lift straight up and off the floor. And we'll try to work to keep our hips squared towards the mat. That'll give you a deeper opening in the back of your leg. Nice. We're letting the right heel drop down. You can firm your right quadriceps. As your quads engage and as your kneecap lifts, your hamstrings in the back of your leg get more of a chance to open up. You can take one more breath here, and then you'll release your left foot down to the mat, stepping it right next to your right. Let your left heel get heavy. Drop that heel down as you lift the sitting bone, and your right leg will lift straight up and back, working to keep your hips squared towards the mat. So it's a little internal rotation in both legs. This is going to access your hamstrings, maybe your glutes, definitely your calves. We'll take a couple more breaths here. Lifting from your left quads, activating the quadriceps, lifting your kneecaps so that you can open up the back of your leg a little bit more. You can release your right foot back down to the mat. We'll take a full inhalation and a full exhalation here. You can bend your knees and look forward. We'll move our feet to our hands. So you can take that slow walk if that was feeling good to you. You can take a big step. You can even float to a half forward fold. We'll find our full forward fold at the end of the next exhalation. And then inhale back to your half forward fold and check in with your feet. So my feet have a tendency to overlift in the inner arch and to flatten the outer arch. So check in with that. If that's happening to you, press into the base of your big toe and lift your outer arch towards your outer ankle to your outer knee to your outer hip. Some of us might have the opposite sensation where your ankles are collapsing in and your inner arches are flattening. So if that's your experience, you're going to lift the inner arch to inner ankle to inner knee to sitting bones. So we want equal weight in our feet, base of big toe, base of little toe, center of heel. And now from here, we'll bend our knees. We want our knees to track both ankles and hips. So our feet are hip distance apart. Knees are tracking right out over the middle of our foot. Feet can reach, or hips can reach back. Eventually, we'll pick this up to Uttanasana, chair pose, and we're keeping our legs the width of our hips. We're getting a little length between hips and shoulders. We might even reach up and look up. Feet pressing into the bases of your big toes, and your knees are staying the same distance apart as your hips and as your ankles. Nice. One more breath. Exhale, fold, Uttanasana. Standing forward fold. We'll inhale and lift halfway up. You can plant your hands, take your feet back and lower. This time maybe you come to your knees. We'll shift forward, shoulders, elbows, hips, all the same height. As you inhale, flow through. Maybe you're taking a cobra pose. Maybe you can make your way to upward facing dog. So we'll pause in our back bend, front of our shoulders drawing back, heart drawing forward. If you're an upward dog, you're grounding into the tops of your feet and your legs are floating. We'll take one more breath. As you exhale, bring it back to downward facing dog. Arms extended, heels getting heavy. So now in your downward facing dog, I want you to lift both heels really high. So you'll lift your heels up and away from the floor, hips get really high, tip your sitting bones up any little bit more. Maybe you can tip your sitting bones just a little bit more towards the ceiling. Yeah, now keep your hips as high as you possibly can, and your heels start to drop back down. They drop back down with a sensation that the back of your leg is lengthening. So it's almost like your hips stay where they are. And you get longer from the back of your knee down to your heel, and you get longer from the back of your knee up towards your hip. Yeah. Now maybe we can feel a sense that the center of your heel bone is getting really heavy and reaching a little bit more towards the floor than it normally would. Yes, let's take one more breath here. Then you can bend your knees and look forward. You'll move your feet to your hands. You could walk, you could step, you could float. We'll find a half forward fold, full forward fold with the exhalation. Feet are the width of our hips. Let's inhale, rise, catch your balance, reach your arms up overhead. We'll press into the balls of our feet and float our heels. So balancing here. One more breath. And as you exhale, heels will lower. You can dive forward, Uttanasana, standing forward fold. Let's inhale and lift, come up halfway. Plant your hands, step or maybe float back and take a vinyasa. This time, what about lowering your chaturanga? Maybe you can keep elbows, shoulders, hips all the same height and hover parallel to the floor. Gorgeous. Inhale, upward facing dog. That was a nice strong chaturanga. Exhale, downward facing dog. And we'll inhale, lift right foot straight up and back. All right, now try stacking your hips. So you'll stack your right hip over your left, bend your knee. You can start to draw your right heel towards your left hip. If you like, you can even kind of circle around in your right hip, one direction and then the other. You can circle your ankle too. Find some mobility in those joints. Eventually, you'll square your hips and shift forward. Take it to a three-legged plank. So hips will stay high, hug your core in, bring your knee into your chest and hover. Yeah, inhale, press it back, three-legged down dog, very nice. Exhale, shift forward, once more three-legged plank, hug your right knee into your chest, and then place your foot between your hands. So we're here now in the high lunge, lifting through the left thigh, get light in your fingertips. We'll hug our inner thighs in, hug belly in. Take a breath to feel the length along your spine, that sense of extension and grounding with breath. And you can pick our fingers up. And we can reach our hands forward and left heel back. From here, pick up your shoulders, keep reaching through your left heel. From here, exhale, brush your left knee down to the floor, but don't quite touch. Inhale, you can reach up. Exhale, you'll brush your left knee down towards the floor. Inhale, pick it up one more time. Brush your left knee down towards the floor. Inhale, pick it up. We'll exhale, reach for the mat and flow through your vinyasa, taking it back to chaturanga and upward facing dog and downward facing dog. Catch your breath. This is your reset. Another opportunity for svadhyaya, little self-observation, noticing what you feel, how you feel now. And your next inhalation will take your left foot up and off the floor. Straight up and back at first, and then stacking hips. You can roll left hip over the right, bend your left knee, maybe play around with circling your ankle, get some mobility there. Play around with circling your hip, get some mobility there. You can circle one way, circle the other. And eventually you'll square, shift forward, left knee into your chest, and hover, three-legged plank. Nice and strong. Inhale, press back. Exhale, shift forward, hug your left knee into your chest. This time, left foot comes between your hands. We're reaching through the right heel, headed for our crescent lunge. You're lifting right thigh, hugging inner thighs in. Pick up your fingers. And then reach your hands forward. And then extend your fingers to the ceiling. And we'll brush right knee down towards the floor, almost touching, but not quite. Inhale to pick it up. You can exhale, brush your right knee down towards the floor. Inhale, pick it up. One more, brush your knee down towards the floor. Inhale, pick it up. Exhale, flow through vinyasa, stepping back to chaturanga and upward facing dog and downward facing dog. Again, a moment to pause. A little pause in the intensity of the flow. We'll take one more breath here. You can bend your knees and look forward. Move your feet towards your hands, walking or stepping or floating. Half forward fold, full forward fold as you exhale. Let's inhale, rise all the way up, keep the balance, reach up, float your heels. And then this time we'll let our knees bend, hands come out in front of us, balancing in your chair. Then check in with your knees now. There might be a tendency for them to collapse in towards each other, so that means lift your inner arches. If you're like me, they might want to pop out to the side. That means I need to activate my inner thighs and lift my outer arches. I'm going to take one more breath here, and then inhale, heels touch down, arms reach up, Utkatasana, both feet planted. You can exhale and fold, Uttanasana. Inhale and lift halfway up. As you exhale, take it back through your vinyasa, stepping or floating to chaturanga, and upward dog. Exhale to downward dog. When you find your downward facing dog, you'll inhale and lift your right foot. And then maybe stack your hips, maybe bend your knee. If you so desire, you could flip it into a wild thing here, get a nice big back bend. So maybe you pivot and step over, lovely. If you're in the wild thing, flip it back, three-legged down dog. When you exhale, shift forward, take your knee into your chest, strong core. Nice, inhale, press back. Exhale, shift forward, right knee into your chest. This time, first warrior. You'll plant your right foot, pivot your left heel down to the mat. We'll inhale and pick it up, grounding through the left heel. We're working to bring this left hip around, but not so much that you lose your left heel. So keep reaching. This is kind of like the guy wire of your tent. And we'll let the right thigh slide forward. When you keep that anchor, you can reach up. All right, this time when you exhale, you'll twist to the right, opening your arms out to the side. So exhale and twist. And inhale to reach up. And exhale to twist. Inhale to reach up. We'll exhale, twist, and maybe reverse the warrior now. So you might be able to slide your right hand down your left leg. Reach your left arm a little higher. Check in with the base of your right big toe. Press it into the mat. We'll take one more breath. Exhale, windmill your arms to the floor, and flow back through your Vinyasa, Chaturanga. And upward facing dog. Exhaling to downward facing dog. We can pause for a moment, and then inhale, left foot lifts. You'll stack your hips, bend your knee, flip it over if you like Wild Thing. You can take a back bend here. Gorgeous. If you're in the Wild Thing, flip it back, three-legged down dog. And as you exhale, you'll shift forward, hug your knee into your chest, nice and strong in your core. Inhale, press it back, three-legged down dog. Exhale, shift forward, knee into your chest, left foot between your hands, right heel pivots and plants to the mat, Virabhadrasana 1. So we'll slide the left thigh forward, right hip is rotating forward, but not so far that it picks your right heel up. We want to keep that right heel on the mat. This is our anchor as we slide the left thigh forward, and from this anchor, we can lift up and into the pose. Moving into our twists now. As you exhale, you'll sweep your arms wide, twist left. Inhale to unwind. Exhale, twist left. Inhale, unwind. Exhale, twist left, and consider reversing the warrior. You might slide your left hand down your right leg. Reach your right arm up for a deeper stretch. As you exhale, you can windmill your way down to the floor, step it back through Vinyasa, Chaturanga, and upward facing dog, and downward facing dog. So take a moment, settle in your down dog. We'll take 2 more slow, steady breaths here, getting back into an awareness of how your breath moves along the front of your spine. And an awareness of how all of the inner musculature of your core responds to breathing. Really, our deep core muscles, our stability muscles, are also associated with our breathing muscles. So we're breathing in this long, deep way. We're engaging our stability. We're going to need it in a moment. So from here, you can bend your knees, look forward, and move your feet to your hands. You can walk, you can step, you can float, half forward fold, full forward fold as you exhale. Let's inhale, rise all the way up to standing, float your heels, catch your balance. Exhale, you can float your heels down, float your arms down, and come to stand on both feet. All right, now, so let's root down through our left foot, pick up the right. We'll bend our knees a little bit and kind of cross your right knee behind your left. So now with your exhalation, in this little bit of a squat, see if you can reach down, right hand will be on your right hip. Try to reach down and touch the floor with your left fingers, and then stand it back up. And squat a little deeper, right knee is behind the left. Touch the floor with your left fingers, pick it back up. Let's try 3 more like this. Well done. Stand back in your mountain pose. Might feel really interesting after that asymmetrical series. Switching sides, knees are a little bit bent. Weight shifts into your right foot. You can take a left hand to left hip. Tucking your left knee behind. Squat down, right fingers brush the floor. And then stand it back up. Squat down, right fingers brush the floor. Stand it back up. We'll try 3 more. Beautiful. Standing back into your mountain pose, feet about the width of your hips. You can extend your arms. Exhale, fold to Uttanasana, standing forward fold. You can inhale, lift halfway up. Plant your hands, step or float back through your vinyasa, back to chaturanga. And upward facing dog. Exhale to downward facing dog. You can inhale and lift your right foot from down dog. Once more, try stacking your hips, bending your knee, really reaching with your right foot back. If you'd like to flip it over, go for it. You could be in your wild thing. If you're in the wild thing, flip it back, three-legged down dog. All right, this time when you shift forward, you'll shift forward and bring your right knee towards your right shoulder and hold it there in your three-legged plank. Yeah. Inhale, press back. Exhale, shift forward. This time, right knee towards the left shoulder. Try to cross, keep your hips high. This one's a little trickier. Inhale, press back. Coming back to the first side. Exhale, shift forward, right knee to right shoulder. This time, right foot to the floor on the outside of your right hand. And we'll let our right toes turn a little bit out to the side so that you can really sink down into your hips, lizard pose. Lots of extension in your left hip. We'll just spend a little bit of time here getting extension in the left hip, maybe breathing into your lower back ribs. And then checking with how your left hand is feeling. If you'd like, you can take a little weight into your left hand, take your right hand to your right knee, and we can take a few moments rocking in and out of a gentle twist here. So when you exhale, maybe your left hip rotates down towards the mat. And as you inhale, you come up and out of that. You can exhale, drop your left hip. Inhale, lift up and out. Eventually, you can roll onto the outer edge of your right foot. So I'm coming into external rotation in my right hip. Right foot is flexed. I can sink down even deeper into this lunge and consider bending your left knee. You might even reach back and grab your foot with your right hand. We'll take a couple more breaths here. As you inhale, you can release. You'll work your hands back down to the floor. Tuck your left toes, lift your left knee, plant your hands, press back, three-legged down dog, and make some circles in your right hip. It'll feel really good to circle it one way, circle it the other. Maybe bend and straighten your leg a few times. Maybe bicycle it out. Let's get a little bit of movement in your right hip. Lovely. Right foot can touch back down to the floor. We'll pick up the left foot now. Left foot lifts, and you can stack your hips, bend your knee, maybe start to draw that thigh bone back, maybe flip it right over into the back bend if that would feel good to you. You could flip it to Wild Thing. Those of you who are in Wild Thing will flip it back over, three-legged down dog. Moving through our little core sequence now, you'll exhale, shift forward, left knee to left shoulder for three-legged plank. Yeah, press back to three-legged down dog on your inhalation. Shift forward, left knee across your body towards the right shoulder now, as high as you can get it. This one's tricky. Inhale, press it back. You'll exhale, shift forward, left foot, left knee to left shoulder, left foot to the outside of left hand. And we can let our right knee drop down. Turn your left toes slightly out to the side. They might angle towards the front corner of your mat so that you can really sink into extension in your right hip now. So we'll spend a few breaths here in lizard pose, getting as much length as you can in your right hip. And if it feels reasonable in your right hand, you can rest down into your right palm. I'm going to give myself a little modification here using my block. I'm going to rest onto my right elbow on the block. But that will allow me to exhale and drop my right hip down. And to inhale and rock out of that. Exhale, drop my right hip down, a little more extension. Inhale out of that. Eventually, I might even externally rotate slightly more in my left leg. I'm on the outer edge of left foot. Foot is flexed to stabilize my knee. And maybe I could reach back and grab my right foot with my left hand, start to draw right heel towards left hip. Nice, let's take 2 more breaths here. And we can release, walk hands back to the mat. You'll tuck your back toes, lift your back knee, step it back to downward facing dog, and then circle out your left hip. You can flex your ankle, you can bicycle, you can bend and straighten your knee. Just get a little movement in that hip. Nice, returning to downward facing dog for 1 full breath. Big inhalation, complete exhalation. At the end of your next exhalation, you can bend your knees and look forward. Feet will move to your hands. Half forward fold, full forward fold with the exhalation. We'll inhale, rise all the way up. Exhale, bring your hands behind you. If you can, palms facing back. We'll march in place here. You're going to try to kick your fingertips with your heels. So you're using your quads here. Lifting your heels up, kicking towards your fingertips. Nice. And then we can stand back on both feet. Find your center of gravity, shift it into your right foot so you can pick up your left. We'll pick up the left foot, reach back with left hand and try to get left ankle. You may notice that as you reach down towards your ankle, your knee wants to kind of pop out to the side, or you might end up leaning slightly to the right. That's totally fine. We'll just bring it all back into the center. So you'll hug your left knee in. You'll take your center of gravity right over the center of your right heel. And then start to draw your left thigh bone back, left shoulder back, without leaning your body forward. What we're looking for here is extension in the front of your left hip. You keep pulling your heel in towards your glutes. If you want a little counterbalance, you can reach your right hand up. Nice, we'll release this side, stand back on both feet, and then center of gravity shifts to the left side. You'll pick up your right. Maybe you can grab your ankle, you'll pull your knee in, draw that thigh back, draw that shoulder back, holding here, and we're looking for extension in the front of the right hip. You can always reach your left arm up as a counterbalance. So let's release. Standing back into mountain pose. Your next inhalation reaches your arms up overhead. You can exhale and fold to Uttanasana. Inhale, lift halfway up. Plant your hands, step or float back through Vinyasa. Nice, so this time you can inhale and lift your right foot straight up and back at first. And then stack your hips and bend your knee, flip it to Wild Thing if you want the back bend. Yeah. And if you're in Wild Thing, you'll flip it back over, 3-legged down dog. Next exhalation, hug your right knee into your chest, step your foot forward for a high lunge. We'll reach out to the left heel. You can inhale, reach up, take your hands behind you, and if it's reasonable, interlace your fingers. Slide your hands down your back thigh as you roll your heart open towards the ceiling. Next inhalation, you can reach your arms up overhead. We'll exhale, bring the hands back down towards the floor. And now really press into your right foot, hug into your core, get light in your left toes. We're going to rock forward to standing split. So lift your left leg as high as you can. You can leave both hands on the floor. You can bring your hands to your right shin. If anyone really wants to challenge your balance, you could wrap your right arm around the back of your right leg, Bring your palms to Anjali Mudra in front of your heart with the bind around your right foot. Lovely. Let's take one more breath here. If you've got the bind, let it go. And as you exhale, soften your right knee. You'll touch your left toes down. High lunge. Exhale through Vinyasa. Meeting back in downward facing dog. When you're ready, you'll inhale and lift your left foot. And then stack your hips and bend your knee and flip it over into one last wild thing if you like. If you flipped into wild thing, flip it back, three-legged down dog. As you exhale, shift forward knee into your chest, left foot between your hands. We'll inhale, pick it up. Exhale, hands behind you. Little mental challenge for you here. Try to interlace with the opposite crossing your fingers. So we almost always interlace with one hand on top. I tend to interlace with my right fingers on top. So it takes a little mental gymnastics for me to interlace with the left forefinger on top. I challenge you to do the same. Interlace with the way that feels a little bit weird. You can slide your hands down your back leg, roll your heart open. Next inhalation, the hands reach for the ceiling. Next exhalation, hands reach for the floor. And we start to shift our weight into the center of the left heel. Belly's hugging in, we're light in the right toes. You'll rock up all the way to your standing split. Lift your right leg as high as you reasonably can. You could have both hands on the floor. You could have hands on your left foot. You could wrap your left arm around the back of your left leg. And maybe bring your palms to Anjali Mudra. Balancing in your standing split. If you've got the bind, unbind, softly bend your left knee and step back, high lunge, land lightly. And your next exhalation takes you through Vinyasa. Chaturanga, upward facing dog. Exhale to downward facing dog. Catch your breath. We'll take one more big inhalation here, one more complete exhalation, and you'll bend your knees, look forward, feet can move to your hands. Find a half forward fold, full forward fold as you exhale. Let's inhale, rise all the way up. Exhale, release your arms down by your sides. Back to Natarajasana, different variation this time. So some of us will bend left knee, grab outer ankle, and then press foot into hand and start to draw the bow this way. If you've got a little bit more rotation in your shoulder, you might try turning your palm out, thumb up, getting the inner ankle so that you can get a little more lift here. So you can lift through left upper inner thigh, reach your foot for the ceiling, reach your right hand for the ceiling. Try to stay square towards the front of your mat. Nice. You're pressing your foot into your hand like you're drawing a bow. Your arm is the bowstring. Let's try one more inhalation here. You can exhale and release, and we'll switch sides. So same thing, standing on your left foot this time. Some of us will grab right outer ankle. Some of us will turn palm out, thumb up, external rotation. Take a hold of your right inner ankle. And then press your foot into your hand, lift up, left arm lifts. It's almost like we're trying to do bow pose, Dhanurasana, while balancing on one leg. There's this sense of lifting up rather than coming forward. You guys look amazing. 2 more steady breaths here, you've got this. You can exhale and release. Last variation of Natarajasana for today. And this is where you might want a little bit of a lift. You may end up not needing it, but it can be helpful. We're going to try to forward fold our dancer pose. So I'm going to put my block out in front of me, just in case. We'll come into our dancer pose. I like to do this one grabbing the inner ankle, but you can also do it grabbing the outer ankle. So grab into right foot, pick up left, grab the inner ankle, Draw the bow. I'm softly bending right knee. Now I'm going to reach my right fingertips towards the floor. Maybe the floor is a little out of reach. So maybe you end up fingertips on a block or fingertips on a can of soup or a stack of books. Maybe you end up with fingertips floating. That's a little extra challenge. With your inhalation, stand it back up, press your foot into your hand, try to stand up in one smooth motion, and switch sides. Root down into your left foot. You can grab your right ankle, we'll pick it up to Naparandasana, and hinge forward around the top of your left thigh. Maybe fingers touch down to a block or the floor, maybe they hover. Oh, amazing. You guys have so much control and focus. I love it. Beautiful. Kicking your foot into your hand, let that lift you back up to standing. You can release your foot. Let's stand back on both feet. And you can inhale, reach your arms up and overhead. Exhale and fold Uttanasana. Inhale, lift halfway up. Exhale, last vinyasa of the afternoon. Step or float back, chaturanga. And upward facing dog. And downward facing dog. Pausing in your down dog. We're going to come through to seated. So if you haven't jumped through and you'd like to go there, you can absolutely jump through to seated. You can simply come to hands and knees and shift your hips to one side, or you could hop forward, cross your ankles, and just sit down behind your wrists. So we'll meet seated. Let's take our legs out in front, bases of big toes touching. Press your hands down into whatever it is you're sitting on. So if you're sitting on your mat, your hands are pressing into your mat. If you're sitting on a prop, your hands are pressing in at the height of your prop. Shoulders drawing back, legs active, legs so active that maybe your heels can even lift. Thigh bones feel like they're dropping. And let's take a few deep breaths along the length of our spine here. Dandasana. Dandasana is a really fascinating place to tune in with your internal musculature. Bandhas in particular. So when you exhale, you can feel the base of the pelvis lifting, your low belly lifting, your abdomen hugging up and in. And as you inhale, you can feel the roof of your mouth drawing back, your ears drawing back, your chin lowering. So we get Mula Bandha, Uddiyana Bandha, Javanara Bandha. All right, so from here, let's bend our knees. Soles of your feet flat on the floor. Just hug the backs of your knees and rock up onto the fronts of your sit bones to the best of your ability. So when our spine is straight as possible, we still got that length of breath up and down the front of our spine. From here, we're going to rock our shoulders back, take our ears back, maybe feet float off the mat. Maybe you let go of the backs of your knees. Maybe your legs straighten. Maybe your arms straighten. Navasana, boat pose. Nice. Cross your ankles, hug your knees in, try to stay balanced on your sit bones. Let's go one more time, boat pose. Nice. Cross your ankles with the other foot in front, hug your knees in, and try to keep your feet off the floor. One more time, boat pose. All right, so really hug your belly in. Let's try to lower feet and shoulders at the same pace and pause in Ardha Navasana, half boat. So now I'm on my sacrum, shoulders lifted, legs lifted. 3 more breaths here. And exhale, release. Lay down on your back. Center yourself on your mat if you're not already there. We'll take our feet wide. Lean knees in towards each other. Arms can release out to our sides, or you can rest your hands on your belly. Let's take a couple of breaths here. And somewhere in your next few breaths, you can rock both knees over to the right. Left hip lifts off the mat. Coming into a twist. You could just hang out here if that feels good. If you want a little more leverage, you can pick up your right foot and put the outer edge of your right foot on the outside of your left knee. to help drop that down a little bit. If that doesn't feel good in your left inner knee, though, leave your right foot on the floor. And we can uncross. Inhale, you'll bring your knees back up to the center. Take both knees over to the other side. Both knees left, right hip lifts off the floor. This could be your pose. If you'd like a little more leverage, a little more rotation in your right hip, you can take outer edge of left foot to outside of right knee. Just be mindful of your right knee. If this doesn't feel good in your right knee, leave your left foot on the floor. Finally, you can uncross, roll back to center. Just pause here for a moment and notice what else your body might need to complete your practice. You've got a few moments left. If you would like to make any other movements, this is your time. Maybe a shoulder stand or a bridge pose or a happy baby pose. Maybe there's something else that you would like to do. So somewhere in the next few breaths, making the movements that would complete your practice. Beautiful. Nice. And whenever you are ready for your relaxation, you can find a Shavasana. I see some fantastic shoulder stands, bridge poses, plow pose. Ah, beautiful. Settling in. And finally, completely letting go. This is an opportunity once more for some self-observation. Svadhyaya. Scanning through your body, scanning through your mind, scanning through your breath, and noticing. An opportunity too, perhaps for some pratyahara, some turning inward. So you might begin with an awareness of the input of your senses, sensing the space around you, sensing your mat, feeling the air on your skin, noticing the light filtering through your eyelids, noticing the sensation of resting against the earth. And then gently guide your attention to your inner senses. What do you feel inside? Maybe a chance for some concentration, dharana. Perhaps there's one aspect of your experience that is especially interesting or especially pleasurable, something that really captures your attention. You can let your attention fully go there. A sensation, a part of your breath, an image, a mantra. Dropping in. And perhaps you can become so intent on your object of concentration that nothing else exists. You may even be able to let go of your focus on your object of concentration and just be. Now gently guiding your attention back to what you feel and how you feel. Noticing breath. Noticing sensations throughout your body. Noticing once more the input of your senses. Aware of the air on your skin, of the weight of your body against the earth, the soft light filtering through your eyelids, the sounds that you might hear, perhaps a sense of sweetness on your tongue. And gradually inviting breath to deepen. Expand your inhalations and exhalations. Start to bring a little movement back. Fingers and toes can wiggle, hands and feet can move, arms and legs can reawaken. Gradually coming back to life. Eventually, your movements can carry you to one side. You can rest there for a moment and then finally use the strength of your arms to help yourself up. Return once more to a comfortable seat. Return once more to an awareness of your breath, inhaling from bottom to top, exhaling from top to bottom. And finally, you can turn your palms out to the side, and as you inhale, reach your arms up and overhead. It's like you're gathering up all the prana that surrounds you into your arms. When you exhale, bring your hands down the midline of your body to your heart, Anjali Mudra. Pause here. And let's close chanting Om together. You're welcome to join the chant if that feels good to you. You are welcome to sit and listen if that feels better. If you'd like to join, we'll inhale and begin. Thank you all so much for sharing your practice this afternoon. It was a delight to see everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And namaste. Good work.